exciting day for me because I was talking about what I love to talk about, which is human resources. Especially when I'm talking to people who are not human resource professionals. I love all the questions and how the conversation goes. And so we got into the conversation, of course, talking about all the different laws and principles and guidelines. And we came apart talking about discrimination and who you can discriminate against and who you cannot discriminate against, which you can't discriminate against anybody. And from out of that conversation, we started talking about sexual orientation. And the conversation just it seemed like it was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm thinking, like, why, there was such intrigue around this conversation. And then finally, one of the participants says, it's illegal here. So obviously, I was not in the United States, I was in a different country. And that's when they dropped the bomb that homosexuality was illegal. And I thought, wow, really? And how are these people protected at work? And then I thought back, how are the people in the United States protected at work? Because there is no federal law protecting people for sexual orientation. There is not. I know we like to believe that there are, and we kind of talk about rights, and we see protests and ban, and people picket people. But there are, when we talk about in the workplace, EEO, when we talked about not discriminating, it's race, gender, it's age, and it says sex, but it doesn't say sexual orientation. And that's what a lot of people have kind of held on to in the different court cases that we have seen. We have seen people kind of use the EEO standard or the Title VII, but neither one of them actually refers to sexual orientation. And then another thing, we start looking at court cases and we see where people who are in the LGBTQ community have brought lawsuits up, and we see that they're using this, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And we have noticed a sharp difference when we're talking about people of color winning these types of cases. They are not winning these kinds of cases. So I just want to give you just like a heads up, if you're in this community, even if you're not, it's always important to know your rights and know if you're protected or not protected and what things that you're protected on. So there are 29 states that actually offer protection, even though there is no federal law. 93% of corporate companies, especially corporate companies, Fortune 500, has offered some type of protection for their employees by, having some kind of policy or some kind of law. So check your handbooks. But if you are not in one of those 29 states and you are not in one of those companies that offer it, you have to ask yourself, basically, how do you make sure that you are protected and what are you protected against? We see that there's a lot of discrimination in terms of pay, in terms of promotion for people, simply because of their sexual orientation. And how do you fight back, or how do you stand your ground, or how do you get what's rightfully yours when there is no law to actually protect you? And so I want you to kind of think about that. We're in the political season. We're talking about voting, and we're constantly talking about our rights, but it's always important for us to know our rights. So sorry, there is no protection for this large group of people in the LGBTQ community. There is no protection because of your sexual orientation. And if you want some, this is a good time to talk about it. Have an amazing day, but make sure you know your rights.